Hello again, I am Blunty and I'm here outside the offices of Choice Magazine today because I'm going on a tour of their labs. In case you don't know, Choice Magazine are a publication run by the non-profit organisation, the Australian Consumer Association. Their purpose in life is basically to be a consumer advocate, and Choice Magazine is their main publication for product reviews and comparisons and stuff. They name and shame the very worst of the crap out there so you can avoid buying a dud. They tell you all about the stuff that actually lives up to the manufacturer's claims. They not only do they review and compare products and check it all out and stuff, but they stand up for consumer rights. They're in there campaigning and being advocates for consumer law and all that sort of stuff. So these guys are one of the most respected organisations in Australia when it comes to consumer goods and things. And once a year they also do something called the Shonky Awards, which I will be attending. And basically what they do there is they just name and shame the absolute worst of the consumer garbage out there, but they do it in sort of light-hearted, fun, exciting, funny manner, and they usually get comedians to present and all that sort of stuff. So I'm looking forward to heading along to that. But for now, for today, I'm going to head in there and find out exactly how they test the products, exactly how they compare them and what they do and who they are and why they do what they do to protect us, the consumer.
At the beginning of my behind-the-scenes tour of the newly refurbished Choice Testing Labs, I was introduced to John Ashes, who is the Choice Lab Manager and our tour guide for the day.
So let's not talk too much, let's go and have a look. And
Choice are very proud of their reputation for being experts in their field, being thorough and earning the public's trust through being fair and independent in their testing. Every single product they test are all independently purchased through normal retail stores. They don't receive pre-tested review samples from manufacturers. They get the exact same consumer experience as the rest of us do.
We're a subscriber-based organisation. It's our money and your money that is being used to purchase those goods.
I'm being filmed.
You are.
Yeah.
Hello.
First stop on the tour was the Kitchen Labs, where we're introduced to Fiona, where she puts everything from toasters to barbecues up against its competitors in the marketplace to see just how it stacks up.
We'll give it challenges. We take different food types that are representative, that will really give the appliance a chance to test out its capabilities. You want obviously slow mixing, fast mixing and all those kind of things. So we'll pick the various food groups. When we do microwaves, we'll do a whole range of food.
I was also introduced to a nifty little gadget called the Hedgehog, which is a carefully calibrated array of temperature sensors designed to test how efficiently and thoroughly a microwave defrosts and reheat food, so we don't get stuck with that awful problem of volcanically hot crust and ice-cold filling in our delicious Aussie meat pies.
And that tells us how even the heat has been in there. And that's a measure of how effective the microwave heats and reheats things. So we'll put all those kind of appliances through the test here. But if you can get in a kitchen, Fiona will test it.
What happens to all the food that's cooked here? I imagine the staff eat very well.
You notice our waistlines are not all that slim.
Next up was the Computer Testing Lab, something that was a little bit more up my geeky alley, so to speak.
This lab pretty well exclusively tests for computer choice. Now they put out 6 issues a year, so Ryan has to do in every 2-month period at least 2 product tests. And I think you've just finished monitors?
Yeah, I've just finished monitors. Basically had 16 different types of monitors, 8 of 2 different sizes, so 8 each, so 22 inch and 24 inch, and these are just in the budget monitor range. So we were just looking to see how accurate they were for colour accuracy, contrast brightness, and a whole range of different things as well.
And it's not just the everyday use and durability of a product that gets tested here. Choice also tests things like how power efficient our electronics are, and are actively involved in not only testing but setting industry standards for power efficiency ratings across Australia.
We work quite closely with the AGO and some of the government departments to actually look at energy testing. And we were the first lab accredited to actually test TV energy in Australia.
The star rating scheme that's similar to white goods. Now we're involved with the standards for that, so that basically TVs on standby now have to conform to a less than 1 watt when they're on standby, and I'm starting to see that a lot more in monitors too. The last time I tested monitors, I wasn't really seeing those power saving features. Now they'll have some will have specific features with auto off, so when you're actually turning the computer off, it'll power down the unit as well. But in terms of, we usually, well, specifically for these type of things, I'll figure out a usage scenario. So I'll sort of say, if there's 5 hours of in-use each day and then maybe 19 hours of standby and rated at 17 cents a kilowatt hour, we'd sort of give, I guess, our readers an average base on what they could look to be spending annually as well, in terms of if they've got it on similar to that usage scenario.
Choice even have a lab specifically dedicated to calibrating their testing equipment to ensure that every fact and figure and number that they churn out is absolutely accurate. At this point, I think the eyes of my fellow tour members, who were mostly food bloggers, kind of glazed over. Haha, food pun. But surrounded by this much carefully calibrated and highly sensitive lab equipment, the geek in me just wanted to start playing with switches and dials. Then came the labs where they test fridges and eskies and all that sort of cooling stuff. I'll avoid making a pun about how cool this all was because frankly my own eyes kinda glazed over at this point. Sure, these things are important for keeping our food fresh and keeping ourselves out of the toilet-embracing misery of food poisoning caused by consuming improperly stored perishables, but frankly, testing fridges for consistently cold temperatures isn't something that turns my crank. Now, if they routinely set them on fire or something, that'd be a different story. Luckily for fridge testers Ben and Jeff, the food bloggers we had in tow were actually fascinated by it all. Same can be said for the dishwasher and laundry test facility. It's all quite fascinating how they tightly control the tests with standard beakers and glasses, dirtying them all very methodically and consistently. They even carefully control the temperature of the hot and cold water which flows through the entire facility. And with the laundry stuff, they actually import scientifically consistently dirtied fabric samples and test wear and tear with bits of carefully measured fraying material. But in the end, it's all about washing dishes and doing laundry, which, as a stereotypical guy, I'm not that enthralled with. Antonio was next, who's in charge of an eclectic range of products, everything from children's electronics to digital set-top boxes, and apparently Antonio is quite tough on equipment that comes with hard-to-use, clumsy remote controls.
When Antonio can't find it, it doesn't score very well, I can assure you.
Antonio's area of expertise even extends so far as to testing dummies and pacifiers.
It's a gauge to tell whether a dummy is too small to fit inside a mouth.
If it fits inside a child's mouth, it can cause a lot of, it can choke a child if it doesn't have breathing holes in it, or it can be very disruptive and very upsetting for the carer and the child in getting the dummy out.
Next came Scott, who has the job at Choice that I personally envy the most. This guy spends his days watching TV and movies because it's his job to put TVs and home theatre equipment through the ringer. And of course, Scott keeps a healthy collection of entertainment, I mean highly sophisticated test media, handy to make sure he can do his job as thoroughly as possible.
Look in the cupboard. We have a lot of DVDs and Blu-ray discs that we use for testing.
Choice are also well known and highly respected because of the work they do in creating and pushing for higher safety standards, especially for toys, beds and other equipment for infants and children, having been responsible for many now legally required safety features and design requirements to help our kids and babies stay safer. The last stop on the tour was a dark back area where they were setting up a huge lighting rig to run a series of tests on compact fluorescent light bulbs. It's also where they have a couple of large rigs purpose-built to put prams and strollers through the most vigorous and demanding of testing procedures, some of which can run for days on end. I was also introduced to their baby substitute bags, which are used to simulate the weight of an average kid. I couldn't help but think of those experiments some of us had to do in high school where we had to look after a bag of flour as if it were a kid in an effort to try and teach us just how hard parenthood is, or how boring a bag of flour is, or one or the other. I wasn't paying attention. And thus concluded a mostly fascinating look behind the scenes at the Choice Testing Labs. And in a vid very soon I'll take you to the Choice Shonky Awards to find out exactly what products miserably failed to cope with these people, their machines, and an almost OCD obsession with quality. Catch you next time.